War Eagle Auburn family, welcome back to another edition of E2C Network Live, where we get together and we talk about what's going on in the Auburn family spectrum. Tonight's live stream is all about Auburn versus San Jose State, Game 2 of the 2022 season. Before you know it, we're going to be talking about Game 12. It's going to be all over with. Not to like be a Debbie Downer or anything like that, but that's the reality. These things come, they take so long to get here. And then they go by so much quicker, and then you're sitting there waiting again. It's just never enough. But here we are. We're going to relish the fact that it is week 2 of the Auburn football season against San Jose State. So on the stream tonight, we'll be breaking down the matchup a little bit, kind of talking about maybe what to expect, what you might see, significant things that are happening in and around the game, maybe some predictions in terms of what we think San Jose State might need to do to make this a game, because the conventional wisdom is that Auburn will win. Or what Auburn doesn't need to do to, however we want to approach that, to not get a win out of this one. Either way you want to slice it up, we're here to preview the matchup and talk with you, the Auburn family. So, as we always do, a couple things that you can do for us, and we get into our live streams here, is our check-in period. Right now, as you come into the stream, please do make sure you smash that like button, whether you're watching on the replay, whether you're watching here live, but also post where you're watching from, city, state, international, if you are international, with the War Eagle. Want to give a shout out, not a shout out is not the right way to say it, a condolences to our friends across the pond. I know we do actually have some that follow the content for what happened today in the United Kingdom with the passing of Queen Elizabeth. So that is obviously a time of mourning for them, and our hearts go out to all of you. So just want to get that out there and say that to our international friends that watch the show. But check in right now with a War Eagle, however you'd like to, and say hello here, because we want to know who's hanging out, even if it's on the replay. Also tonight, as we've been hinted back to you on the last live stream, the last preview that we did, we are going to try to have some different voices on here. No one joining me specifically tonight. However, just like we did last week, as you can imagine, San Jose State people are hard to come by, at least in this part of the country. So we are, though, going to open up the phone lines to those San Jose fans that might come by and say hello. If you are a San Jose State fan and you are watching live, please let me know in the chat. That ticker will be down there. We want to hear from you. We don't bite that hard. We're not mean. We just want to hear what you think about this particular game, and maybe what to expect, because otherwise we're going to be doing it through our orange and blue glasses the entire live stream, which is perfectly fine for me. I'm okay with that, actually. Okay, while we get things started here, let's go ahead and say hello to a lot of people. Here we got Linda Devin, one more closer to her another football weekend. Yes, John Stokes, Kaiju's here, Neil, we got Tyler's here, Dusty as well. Busy defending Harsin tonight, War Eagle. He's already dropping his score prediction. So if he's busy, he can drop his, but everybody else, hold your score predictions. That'll be the last thing we do tonight. I will ask for them, but we're going to do some other predictions, things similar to what we did. I enjoyed that last week, and I hope that all of you guys did too. Predictions in terms of like who might do this in terms of offense, defense type of situation. But yeah, great info. Auburn should have a big. I'm glad that you are getting some great information out of here. Hopefully we can give you some more tonight. Let me put some context around kind of also what's been happening. Apparently, a media person went after Coach Harsin, trying to do some petty social media stuff. If you want to dive into that, Dusty's handling it apparently. Be my guest, but it's not something we're really going to get into tonight, because it's just people being petty and needing some attention for themselves. So either way, basically all you need to know is Scam Lisi's back at it again, because he's losing clout and losing the ability for people to pay attention to him. And I'd be happy saying that to his face, because that's how he's behaved, at least online, most of his time. So with that being said, let's dive a little bit further into this and see what you guys want to talk about. I will give you guys a little bit of background around the game. First, obviously, the game time, 6:30 p.m. Central Time, so 7:30 for those of you like Neil who are in the Eastern Time Zone. It'll be on ESPNU. So none of this week of trying to figure out whether you've got access to SEC Network Plus, and if you do, how to actually access it, because it was confusing for some people. I heard several stories about it. It's not on ESPN Plus, it is on ESPNU. Now, the problem is I do know some TV packages that don't get ESPNU. So for some of you out there, I apologize if that gave you a sense of false hope. That is still something that you might have to deal with. But ESPNU is where you can watch the game. Obviously, in Jordan-Hare Stadium, the second game, both teams are 1-0. We'll talk a little bit more about how the other team became 1-0 and maybe what to expect as a result of that as we go throughout the stream tonight. We've broken down the Mercer game, and we can use some of that to bounce forward into our discussion about the San Jose State matchup, but we've covered that one in quite a bit of detail in this one. I think a lot of people, as I see it kind of in the chat too, are expecting this to be boring. I can understand that too. I think that you look at what you saw from Auburn last week and then some things that we'll get into about San Jose State, and you'll be like, hey, this one probably might be easier than the other one. And I can understand why you feel that way. But don't ever count out someone anymore after the Georgia State game. That is my biggest caution to you. I've got to go watch it. Oh, so you're one of those without the ESPNU package. That's unfortunate. And you watched it on YouTube. That is curious. YouTube TV probably had access to it. Maybe that's what it was. Sure. I don't know what happened there. Joseph says, think everything the first game was vanilla on purpose just to see the execution. Will pick up some this week. Yeah, it's a first game, right? For both teams. So for those of you that are looking at how San Jose State performed in their first game, put a little context around everything. And those of you that are just super excited about everything or kind of maybe a little bit down about some things that Auburn did, I don't know how you could be that way because it was the first game. It's a first game. So we will learn a lot more about both of these teams, but for our purposes, more importantly, Auburn after the end of this week and what it will mean going forward into the Penn State week. Let's not get caught looking ahead, folks. I know there's that big shiny object of Penn State. I promise you it's going to get here, Lord willing, at the end of the next week. So worrying about that is not going to do us any amount of good. We are right here. Tennessee knows all about Georgia State. Yeah. Georgia State, though. I still have like nightmares about that game because I was at it last year, and I will never take another game like that for granted. A little bit more information about San Jose State for you. Like I said, 1-0. Their coach is Brent Brennan. It's interesting. Brent Brennan. They are currently 21-37th, and he's in his 6th year. So you can see like the differences in the expectations when it comes to Mountain West. For those of you who don't know, they're in the Mountain West Conference as compared to Auburn. You have that kind of record in the SEC, you better be at Vanderbilt because you're not going to last 6 years. Now, it's a different story. We don't know the state of the program that was San Jose State when we got here, but there it is. This is the Hometown Heroes Day. They're going to be honoring, obviously, hometown first responders, people of that nature, but they're also going to be honoring if you're at the game. Here's what I'd like to know. Anybody watching now or on the replay, are you going to the game? Post that right now. Let me know if you're going to be there because I would just love to know who's going to be. I'm going to be living vicariously through you on this week since I won't be there. The rally cap is ready. Tyler knows all about the rally cap. He didn't believe the magic until I actually showed him at the Georgia State game last year and how it can work miracles. Interesting. Looking at people's strategies for watching the games. Coach will give them more this week to see again the execution, and he's able to really open the playbook for Penn State. The question is, do you put more on tape this week for Penn State to have to prepare for, or do you still kind of keep it close to the vest? I'm kind of the school of thought, give them more to prepare for. That's the whole point of doing that whole Robbie Ashford, TJ Finley set where they're both out there and have kind of a triple option format that we all got super excited about last week. Rightfully so. It's really cool. Don't see that a lot these days unless you're Georgia Tech. Are they still running the triple option? Does anybody know? I can't remember if they are or not. But yeah, you want to put all of that out there. Linda has not made a final decision on going to the game. Go, Linda. Well, I guess the weather is supposed to be kind of iffy again this week, so I understand. But my rule of thumb is if it is not going to financially hurt you, and if you have the ability to go, because you never should take it for granted. And I know that Linda's not. Linda goes plenty, but you definitely should take the option there if you can go to see the Auburn Tigers play. A little bit more. Let's talk about series history. Auburn leads all time 2-0. Both of those victories have been at Jordan-Hare Stadium, as will this third matchup be. In 2014, Auburn won 59-13. Quite an impressive victory. The other one, though, was a little bit scarier, 35-21 in the 2015 matchup that also took place at Jordan-Hare Stadium, as we already talked about. So, undefeated against the San Jose State Spartans. Conventional wisdom would tell you that, we would uphold that and be 3-0. But maybe there's reasons to believe that they have a chance. Here's the other way to look at this one, too. Mountain West Conference, at least those that are currently in it. Auburn is completely undefeated with them as well. They are 1-0 against Fresno State, 2-0 against San Jose, 1-0 barely against Utah State. And then I remember this game fondly. This is one of the first games I remember actually really paying attention to versus Wyoming, 1-0. So not only is Auburn undefeated against San Jose State, they're undefeated against the Mountain West by the skin of their teeth, literally, Utah State. If you want to talk about down to the wire games, go back and watch the highlights of that game after the championship season. That was, oh my goodness, very, very scary. Let's see here. San Jose State is a very expensive place to live. That's all I know about them. And that's fair, right? It's kind of the same anywhere in California. For those of you that didn't know, they're in California. I figured most people would know that, but San Jose Spartans obviously have a high cost of living, and they don't attract as big of a pool of talent as, say, a USC or a UCLA or a Stanford, even as hard as their academic requirements are. So you can see it's comparable to us and, Troy, us and UAB and South Alabama. They're always going to be scrapping and clawing for, especially statewide, with us in Alabama. And then they've got Florida. Some of them got Florida State to deal with. Things of that nature all around them. San Jose State is the second most expensive city to rent in the U.S. I had no clue. The more you know. Thank you for dropping that information in here. Those are the things. This is what y'all bring to the table, and this is what I like. Even if it's not related to football, it just gives us a little bit more information about all of that. All right, let's do this. Let's talk a little bit about San Jose State themselves, and I'm trying to get down in my notes here to where we have a little bit more information about the actual team. Oh, I do remember. See, this is getting the preview show down pat, what I want to do. Some important notes to talk about in terms of Auburn changes and roster things. J.J. Evans has left the program, is in the I should say he's in the transfer portal. We've seen somebody go in and come back out, so I guess there's always a chance, but it seemed like there was some finality to it. He made a post last night about how he's going to take this opportunity elsewhere. It seems like a very amicable departure, but the wide receiver is no longer part of the depth chart there, opening up for some other people to potentially have opportunities that he might have had. It looks like on the depth chart here that Javarius Johnson has replaced Tavares Dawson in the starting role at that wide receiver. At right guard, Cameron Stutz is listed as the starting right guard. If you remember, a lot of last week we heard that it was an or situation where they could interchange them a lot. Is it still an or? Really, truly, probably so. But for now, Cameron Stutz is listed as the starting right guard spot, which he had a great game according to coach. So you would think he would definitely deserve to be there. Corey, good to see you. Thanks for being here, buddy. Always great to hear from you. So those were the couple of notes of Auburn's roster changes this week that would be important to know for the matchup. All right, let's dive into, and I'm pulling it up right now on this other apparatus that I have over here, San Jose State. Let's get to know the team that we're going to be playing and find out a little bit about them. For those of you that don't know, San Jose State played Portland State and won 21-17. And a lot of you are going right now, Portland State, that doesn't sound too good. Yeah, you're probably right. But what most people will forget is that Portland State has a history of being one of the better FCS schools out there. So put Mercer in that category too, somewhat historically. You put your South Dakotas, North Dakotas, App States used to be that. Now they're, in the FBS now. But Portland State has usually been a good enough team to take down some of the quote unquote lower tier FBS schools. And unfortunately, I don't mean this with disrespect, but just in terms of current events and national perception, San Jose State would be a lower tier FBS school right now, just in terms of how it's going at the moment. So with that in mind, you look at the 21-17 game that they had, getting a win by the skin of their teeth. It's maybe put it in a little bit more context. However, though, we just beat an FCS school that is very formidable by all accounts, very good offensively, and pretty much kept them in check. So you can kind of maybe take some looks at that, what we did last week, what they did last week, our opponents versus their opponents, and make a guess as to maybe what you expect out of this team versus San Jose State this week. I understand why a lot of people think this is one's going to be a runaway with. Not just that, but as some were talking about earlier, San Jose State will probably get the brunt of a more open and more explosive attack from the Tigers this week. Joseph says 3-4 front from San Jose has my mouth watering, thinking back to Missouri 3-4 front in the 2013 championship game. Yes, I would say that in terms of opening up some holes, obviously the 3-4 presents itself with some opportunities there. Now, what happens is if their linebackers are really good, especially in run coverage, then maybe they're going to make that 3-4 not look as easy as an opportunity to get through. But it all comes back to the offensive line. If they can create the holes, especially Tank, he knows how to bounce and absorb and keep moving forward. But that does set up for a pretty good situation right there. Box score stuff. Let's talk about some stats, and then we're going to get into some maybe what to expect type stuff. We've got, that was Portland State. We don't want San Jose State on there, or we want San Jose State. Quarterback is, I'm trying to pull his name up right now, Siobhan Cordero. He is a junior. This is the guy that came over from Hawaii, who's supposed to be pretty good. Came over across the Pacific Ocean to be with San Jose State. In this past game, he went 15 for 30, so 50% completion. Not that great. Most of you are like, is that great? It's not. 239 yards, though, in 15 of 30, one touchdown, no interceptions. His QBR was 25.4, which is not great overall, but he kept the ball safe, and there's that. Individually, their top rusher, 10 rushes for 35. And if you look at the team stats on this one, especially, you'll really see the discrepancy. Like I said, especially, so here's the interesting thing. When you look at some of these team stats from this game, it really makes it look like Portland State should have won this game. So we talked about that 3-4 defense where maybe it opens up things a little bit more for them. At least they were able to hold them at bay from scoring, even if they gave up some yardage. What does 3-4 mean? So when we talk about defenses, usually they refer to them in the front seven, usually meaning your defensive line and your linebackers, how they're set up, because that's kind of your first line of defense. So 3-4 would mean that there are 3 defensive linemen, quote unquote, and 4 linebackers. A 4-3 would be 4 defensive linemen, 3 linebackers. A 5-2 would be 5 defensive linemen, 2 linebackers. We're in kind of a hybrid. We probably honestly kind of fit into the 5-2 hybrid. It's really, we run a multiple defense, so there's really no set thing, but Benjamin even answered that for you down there. And down lineman would mean guys with hands down on their ground. So yeah, maybe that defense isn't has as many holes as possible because they did not let them score as much as they gave up. Total yards, 395 for Portland State, only 288 for San Jose State. Really, their passing game is their bread and butter. According to game 1, only 49 rushing yards for San Jose State. In the SEC, if you cannot run the ball, you will not be successful. First downs, they got dominated in. Even though they had their better opportunities in the passing game, they got beat there. They got beat rushing. Portland State did have more penalties, and they did have more turnovers. They had 2 interceptions and a fumble loss. So when I look at this information, when I look at what to expect out of this set, I expect their defense to probably be the stronger part of their game. So really what we're going to be able to look at, in my opinion, is see how this offense that we have matches up against a different defense. That's really the main thing there. Joseph, we do run a 4-2-5 sometimes. As coaches stress, they are a multiple type of offense and defense. That is our base set. But it can vary from time to time. Yes. I changed my score. It's interesting when you start looking at stats, it can eventually change some of the things that you look at. Let's see. Eugen says Finley starts versus San Jose State and does not do good. Robbie Ashford plays the second half of that game, then starts versus Penn State because of the run threat. It's one opinion. I'm inclined to believe that he's going to do a great job. Both of them are. We're going to continue in the 2 quarterback set until right now. And see, that's the other thing too, when you talk about our defense, a nickel position, which is kind of a hybrid defensive back position. It's like I'm going to dumb it down too much where people are going to get upset with my dumbed down descriptions of it, but it's just a unique defensive back position. That also kind of throws some wrinkles into what we do. Gone are the days of Auburn doing a traditional like 4-3 and just sticking with that, at least holistically. The weird thing about this year is no one is paying attention to Auburn. And I kind of like it that way, Neil, to be honest with you. I kind of like the attention being off of us right now, because if Auburn obviously takes care of business this week, catches Penn State in where I think we will catch them, and handles that opening SEC play here at home, October starts and people are kind of like, where did Auburn come from? And then they're really having to take a hard look and see what they messed up on. Yeah, I mean, us being underestimated is definitely a good thing. Unbeaten Lake says, I've seen us use the 3-4 set. Yeah, I agree with that. That's where he was saying we run a 4-2-5. Yeah, that may be the starter, the base set that we use, but we use whatever we need to based off thing. And I think that's a great thing, right? Yeah, you want to be a team that can do one base thing really, really well, but you got to have the ability to adapt, because there's so many different offensive schemes, so many different ways that teams can attack you. So yeah. Let's see. Joseph says, I personally think Finley goes 75% with 150 yards, and then Robbie takes over for the reps. I could see that personally being very viable right there. So how about let's start with our predictions there. How many yards, he gave us his prediction, but everybody watching right now, how many yards do you think that TJ Finley will get in this game? Passing, to be clear. So post that right now in the chat. How many passing yards will TJ Finley get? Post that right now. I'm going to probably guess personally somewhere in the range of like 190, 95, something like that. It'll be better than last week. I can't remember exactly what he did last week, honestly. But anyway, it'll be a little bit better than last. Whatever he did last week, just slightly a little bit better, but with less mistakes. I think if I'm Coach Harsin, I'm looking for an opportunity to find him at a good point and then not necessarily pull him right away, but have him leave the game in a much better situation to build his confidence going forward and give Robbie the time to continue to get more reps. 175, 150, 500, 180, 200. I think 200 is probably closer to where I'd like to be, but I'm just going to pull back a little bit and say like 195-ish. I know that's like 5 yards difference, so why not just pick 200? But I kind of see that more situationally, not because TJ's not capable of better. Let's do another prediction. This is in relation to San Jose State's offense versus our defense. Post this right now in the chat. How many yards does the Auburn defense give up rushing? How many yards will San Jose State have rushing, or how many will Auburn give up? However you'd like to think about that. Post that in the chat right now. Corey says around 114 yards for TJ. It's a little low. It's a little low. A little low. If the receivers drop the ball against San Jose State, I'm going to be mad. Well, I wouldn't put it past them based on what I saw in some practices and stuff like that. But hey, everybody can get better and everybody can improve. So put it in perspective, 49 rushing yards. 35 of those came from one running back. How many do you legitimately think they're going to have rushing on us? Now, so here's the context of the situation too. Say we do get out to exorbitant lead here. Let's say by mid third quarter, it is 42-0. Just go with me. You put everybody in there who's backups of the backups and stuff to get them some reps. Do you count that against the defense? I don't know. Negative 75. Believe it or not, that is possible. Less than 50, 130. Less than 75. Yeah, I think I'm going to say they get more in this game because of what I said earlier, because of us having to put people in earlier, not having to, choosing to put people in earlier to get more reps. So I'm going to say like 70 rushing yards, but that is still obviously handling them very, very easily. TJ had 112 against Mercer, so obviously a 190 would be a lot better. 250? Oof. Corey says, I just think Ashford will run more plays than TJ. I agree with that. I do agree with that. I think the goal would be to have TJ come out there, lead a couple of drives by himself, get him in and Ashford in there together, kind of interchanging to work that system out, and then let TJ kind of finish his stuff and then let Robbie take over. That'd be my ideal situation. Yeah, I think Donovan's just having fun with us. But maybe he's right. Maybe he thinks so. I meant we get 250. Well, you misunderstood the question. We're asking how many would we allow. I'm going to put it to you this way. How many did they allow rushing? Let's look. Portland State had 395 total yards. They had 125 rushing. They gave up 270 passing. So if you look at that, within the context of Portland State maybe being a little bit inferior in talent and them not being a very run-focused team, at least having a lot of success within game one, I bet we're going to have some bigger yard numbers in this game too. All right, so let's do that as our next prediction. How many rushing yards will Auburn football have in this game? Remember, they allowed 125 in the last game against Portland State. We had like 300 and something in the last game. How many do you think that we will have in this particular game? I think we're going to have a lot, to be honest with you, just to be completely honest. All right, got some predictions. 400, 35, 350. 500. I think 500's pushing it, Unbeaten Lake, but I do think that they're going to be close to 400 yards rushing. Imagine a world where Tank gets about 150, Jarquez gets another, 100, close to it or something like that. Between them, you're sitting close to 250. Robbie Ashford himself is going to get at least 50 probably. And then with some time with Damari Alston, maybe Sean Jackson and others, we're going to run some jet sweeps too. We're going to probably easily push close to 400 rushing yards. Ooh, we got a breakdown. Tank gets 160, 80 for Jarquez, Damari 50. I'd be very happy with that. That'd be really good. The one time we probably came close to seeing 1,000 was when Trey Mason went off against that 3-4 defense of Missouri in the championship game. 248. Robbie gets 130. It's a bit of a step out there. Bold prediction, Robbie 150. Maybe so. All right. Well, Neil brought up special teams. He says that they're going to have a great day. So let me ask you and give you another prediction we might make in this game. We saw an eagerness on punt returns from Javarius especially, and Donovan Kaufman too. In my opinion, that was probably one of our areas of concern for me. They were a little bit over eager on the punt returns. But you can see the talent that you put out there in Nehemiah Pritchett and Jarquez Hunter on kickoff returns. So my question to you is, what is more likely to happen in your mind? A kickoff return for a touchdown or a punt return for a touchdown? What is your most likely thing that you'll see there? Neil asks, will there be one single San Jose State fan there? If so, A fans need to treat them very nicely, take them to Chick-fil-A. Well, it depends if they like Chick-fil-A. You know, I'm a big fan of Chick-fil-A, obviously, but when I have people come to town, I want to send them to Auburn places like Mama Goldberg's or Niffers if they're there off of campus for some time. There's a lot of great places, even, just in downtown to eat. So I will send them or treat them, just something different than that. 3 punt returns for touchdowns. That's a bit of a step out, Neil. I don't know if I agree with that. We got a kickoff pick, punt return, because we controlled the field position, catching the ball closer to the midfield. Donovan, that's not a bad take in terms of just looking at things, not outside of a just Auburn and San Jose State matchup, just looking at what's the more likely thing to happen. So you're probably right there. Scott, do you mean Donovan Kaufman will break a punt return? Is Scott running it? Scroll back up here. Yeah, you're right. Punt returns, Javarius Johnson, Keontae Scott, and then Javarius. I thought it was Donovan Kaufman running there. Maybe they changed it up and I just had that backwards completely. So you're right. They will only kick off once. So either halftime or the beginning of the game. You may be right on that. I just think that we're going to give up some points at some point. On the opening kickoff, Lightning will strike the football in midair, signaling a great season for us. That's one way to go about it. That is certainly one way to go about it. I'm gonna predict it's probably going to be a kickoff. I do agree that I think in terms of just general chance to happen in all football, a punt return probably is going to be more likely to happen given the battle for control of the field, essentially. But yeah, 4 blocked kicks. He's making some bold predictions tonight, folks. Let's do one more special teams. Yes or no? Will Evan Mcpherson get to kick a field goal in this game? Yes or no? Not even a question of if Anders going to get to do it. Will Evan Mcpherson, not to say Evan, I'm sorry, Alex Mcpherson, his brother's Evan, he's in my fantasy league, he's on the Bengals. Alex Mcpherson, will he get to kick a field goal in this game? What say you? No. We got a no on that one. Here's why I think so. Coach Harsin has said this. What do I always say to you guys? Listen to his press conference, listen to what he said. He says, if you can do something for our team, I'm going to find a way to put you out there. And he even pointed out to some of the younger guys that are, the freshmen that have 4 games to give up before they lose their eligibility. I think this is a time where you use Alex Mcpherson because I think you want to get him out there one time. The only other opportunity I could see it happening would be that Western Kentucky game at the end of the year. And maybe that's really, truly when it happens, but maybe. Or maybe you let him do a kickoff. Let him do something. He will get a touch. SGS is beyond garbage. I don't know about that. I think we will do more kickoffs than field goals. Probably so. That's a fair point there. Anders hasn't kicked a field goal yet. He will need all in this game, in-game reps, especially 40-plus yards when he struggled last year. And I do think that you're going to get that, but I think there's going to be a lot of scoring on the part of Auburn. At least that's what I hope. And I think he will get plenty of opportunities. And I would agree that while we want him to get some reps doing 40-yard plus, you also don't really want to have to, right? Kyle, what will you do if Auburn loses San Jose State? Will you? I'd be pretty upset. Well, yeah. If we lost to San Jose State, that tells me that because based off what I've seen from this defense so far, which I think is very good, I think that means that our offense will have had to turn over the ball so much, which means we've got some serious fundamental stuff that we've got to do on offense and go fix in practice. That would be very discouraging. I think it would be an offensive problem more than a defensive problem right now is what I think if they were able to beat us. So that's what would make me upset and concerned. My hope is that we all wouldn't freak out as much as we'd want to. But the worst thing would be how much we'd get ribbed for losing to San Jose State, because we still let Alabama have it for their loss to not Mercer. They had some trouble with Mercer too, but would like losing Monroe, for instance. We lost to San Jose State. Excuse me. Mercer would be tossed, or Harsin would be tossed out of the stadium. I'm donating my student tickets if we lose. Hey, I'll take them. I can't get in anymore, but the days are gone of me being able to pass for a student, even if it's much harder to do it these days than back in my day. We just had the card you had to swipe. So the strategy was you obviously go get a guy for me, kind of put your finger over the face when they you would just flash it to them so they could just like see your hair kind of thing, and they could just to confirm it or somewhat confirm it was a guy, and then swipe it real quick and go on in. More predictions. Joseph says, I think we have 700 plus total yards of offense, but fairly balanced, 350 rushing, around 300 passing. Does anybody want to step out on a limb and predict us having more passing yards than rushing yards? Anybody want to take that bet? Not that it's really going to do anything if you take the bet or not. I'm just curious if anybody's willing to do that. I don't think even in this game that I personally am. But so my hope is that we do look balanced. That's what Coach Harsin wants to show on paper, is that we are balanced and that we can be formidable on both sides of those balls. Not a chance. I didn't think anybody would take those odds. That would be awesome if we had more passing yards. It would, I think, in terms of novelty factor, but at the same time, I don't think it would be. For me, I would like to be balanced. All right, let's talk about this now, and then we can maybe answer some more just general thoughts and comments and questions. Let's ask the question, what does San Jose State have to do, similar to what we did against Mercer, to beat Auburn? So I'd love to hear from you guys, your opinions. What is like one specific thing that they have to do? Yes, score more points. So I know someone's getting ready to type that right now. But specifically in an area of the game, what would they have to accomplish to beat Auburn in Jordan-Hare Stadium for the first time? Remember, this is 2-0 right now, taking on them for the third time. What would San Jose State have to do as a football team to win this game? I'll start us off. I think one thing that is very obvious, and it's a frustration point for Coach Harsin, is if they are able to win the turnover battle significantly. Now, what do we mean by that? For me, that means that there's a 3 differential, meaning whatever combination of interceptions and fumbles. If they are getting the ball 3 extra times more than us, to me, that's a bad sign. And that's a huge thing that could potentially give them opportunities that our defense wouldn't normally present. Because look what happened, right? Early in that game, Mercer was really not getting anywhere with the ball until TJ threw an interception, and then they had a short field to work with. So think of it that way. Let's see here. Stop the run. So, okay, well, let's ask that question. What does stop the run mean? So what is the amount of rushing yards that San Jose State can give up to us and win the game? 0. I'll throw one out if you guys have any opinions, share them. I think if they hold us to under 100 team rushing yards, that means Robbie didn't get going. That means maybe Tank was the only one there. Then I think personally that's a bad sign right there. They have to sustain drives. And that's a good point, Donovan. I don't think that they're going to be able to sustain very many drives with the defense that we have. Now, their offense seems to be geared more towards passing, which was, according to Coach Harsin, bit of I won't call it a weak point, but a point of improvement. He wanted the guys to compete more for the ball, is what he talked about in the press conference this week. He was asked about it a couple different times. And so, if they can, sneak that ball in there into some avenues, we're not competing for the ball, as he'd like to say, and getting interceptions, turnovers, or making, plays on it, pass breakups, then maybe so. I knew one of these was coming. San Jose State needs to change out their entire team for an NFL team. That's fair. So slow down, stop the run. Joseph says all out blitz on Finley. I'm trying to think if I agree with that or not. I don't know if they have the athletes for an all out blitz to be super effective. Even if they're rushing 8, right? And we have 5 or 6 there with a tight end or a running back blocking or something like that. I think there's enough in our playbook that they're not going to be able to do that more than once. But maybe. San Jose would have to give AU the Ebola virus. Wow. They'd have to be more physical than our team. So here's the big thing, and we talked a lot about this with Tate Johnson, right? A lot of people were questioning his size, questioning whether that was going to be a detriment to him in this game, this past game. Clearly, it wasn't in one game. You can be undersized and still be more physical. So I would think when we're building our list of things that they need to do to beat the Auburn team that we know right now based off of one game, you guys have come up with a lot of good ones. Stop the run. In my mind, that means less than 150. I say if they can keep us at, how about this? In my opinion, if they keep us within 100 to 125 yards, that's a good day for them. If they can win the turnover margin by 3+, that's a good thing for them. If they can sustain drives, meaning they don't have a lot of 3 and outs. We don't see the little scratch mark that they're putting up on the screen these days to count 3 and outs, which I love, by the way. That's another thing there. And if they can out physical the line on both sides of the ball. Don't think they're going to win that one against the defensive line, but there's obviously still going to, excuse me, a lot of question marks still about the offensive line, as you would expect, based on what the history has been. Then that might happen. Linda says they talked a lot about turnovers on Tiger Talk. Can you tell that is Coach Harsin's sticking point right now? What does Harsin do if Finley throws interception against San Jose State? If it's 1, and that's a good question. It just has a lot of context that is needed there. So, like, if it's at the third quarter when things are in hand and he makes a mental error right there when there's nothing really, then you probably get really upset with him, but you probably don't do anything except just let Robbie continue to play. But if he throws one early, that might be something where we kind of go, or Coach Harsin goes, all right, let me give Robbie the time to kind of do the early part and let's let TJ do the backside of it. Excuse me. His run blocking didn't grade well. You're talking about Tate Johnson? Last I saw that his grading went really good across the board, but maybe I'm looking at the wrong stat. Ashford's good at blocking. Yeah, he was, wasn't he? It's funny. That's like the thing that everybody keeps going back to from that game, and not that run he had down the sideline or that throw he had. Clarify if TJ throws an INT right to the defender. I think, yeah. So in your point, Neil, if he throws a ball up and it's tipped by the wide receiver, much like Pittsburgh and West Virginia, right? It's not really the fault of the quarterback. I mean, maybe he could have took a little bit off of it, but still, if the ball hits you in your hands, that's your responsibility at that point. So then, yeah, that's not TJ's fault. You don't go, oh, bench TJ. But if it's a straight pass straight to the defender, such as we saw, which was a poor decision on his part. He said last week one was a poor decision and one was a fundamentals footwork issue. Then, yeah, we've got probably a problem that needs to be fixed for that game. Maybe. When teams use quick, short passing game, I wish we would jam the receivers more. I'm trying to think if I've seen that myself. I'll maybe have to watch for it this time. Think about how down people will be on our team if Robbie throws an interception or two Saturday. I'd love to believe that, Donovan, but I think people are so far on the Robbie Ashford hype train, and they should be, as long as they keep it in check and reasonable and be supportive of everybody. I don't think that's going to matter. They'll just chalk it up to, oh, he's young. Whereas TJ, you don't really give as much of a pass, kind of understandably, because he's an older guy. He's been around, knows better, right? Oh, I love this question. Will we see Calzada this Saturday? I'm going to say if he's healthy, yes, if we don't have a rain delay, if we don't let them stick around. I think in my perfect world, let me change it. I said it earlier. TJ runs the first half, done after the first half. Robbie runs the entire third quarter and then maybe some of the fourth, and then let Calzada come in and get some reps. I want to see Calzada in game action. Personally. Excuse me. We'll be on the silent. Apparently, I'm really sleepy tonight. So that's a good question. I would really love to see Calzada out there. So I think we've got a blueprint, somewhat of a formula for San Jose State and maybe their fans to operate off of. We'll see if they use it, because I don't think that there's going to be a lot of them. The question was earlier, will there be anybody to watch the game for San Jose State? Mercer traveled well last week, which we got to give them credit for Mercer's standards. They brought their band, all that kind of stuff. And they stuck around too. San Jose State, I just don't think is going to get the following. You will find probably a speck of, I think they're, what is their colors? Kind of royal blue. Is that royal blue? Sky blue and gold, maybe smattered. You're probably not going to see clusters like you normally see, but they're going to be smattered up here, up there, over there in that corner. Not a whole lot of them. If I drank coffee, yes, because I really am tired. I didn't get a lot of sleep last night. Maybe that's why. Let's see. I'm not going to talk about players that are no longer here. I'm not going to give you all that opportunity. Not going to take that bait. Anyway. All right, let's see what else we've got to talk about within San Jose State. We've got a few more minutes, and then we'll offer up our final score predictions. Not yet, though. Again, if you forgot, 21-35, Auburn beat San Jose State the last time. This is back when Peyton Barber was there. He had a great day of, was it 5 touchdown runs? So we rushed fairly well against them, 235 yards. Again, different team, different time, all that kind of stuff. But yeah, let's see. What else can I give you guys in terms of information on San Jose State? Don't really want to look at these things. Team comparisons. Individual leaders for them. Robinson rushing 10 for 35, 10 attempts for 35 yards. So that's a 3.5 average. Their best receiver, who had 123 yards. So watch for him. Cooks, 6 receptions there for 123 yards. No touchdowns, though. Defense, some guys to take note of would be Harmon, Cobbs, Jenkins. So those are some names to kind of be watching there. Not quite yet, guys. Don't give your predictions just yet. Just a second. Trivia question. When was the last time Auburn played? We just said that, 2015. I'm on the Derek Mason hate train. Listen. Oh, that man. He had I often wonder when people choose to leave Auburn, whether it's a transfer guy in the transfer portal, a coach, what have you. I often wonder, do they regret that decision? I can think of a few that don't, just because of what's happened outside of just simply, wanting to be on a winning team and stuff like that and opportunities. I don't know that Derek Mason's looking at that and going, I'm in a good position now. Did you see Gene Chiswick's UNC defense? Wow, talk about bad. So, and also, Neil, remember, he had a pretty decent defense when he was in their defensive coordinator the first time around. I'm willing to give him the benefit of the doubt till he gets it kind of righted again. It's kind of that same thing we had with JB Grimes and Herb Hand at offensive line. Remember, JB Grimes was great. His first stint around had some health issues, had to leave, or he went on and did one more coaching job, I think, and then took time off. We brought in Herb Hand, and that's problems that we're having right here, right now, because of a lot of that. Brought JB back in and didn't have enough time or the desire to really kind of get it going. Gene could find himself in a similar situation where he's trying to clean up a mess that he didn't leave them with. Darlene, good to see you. Thanks for checking in. We're about done here, but thanks for checking in with us. UNC gave up 6 touchdowns in the fourth quarter. I do wish I had watched that game a little bit more closely, but you hate to see that to happen to Gene. He's a good guy, good coach in some respects. I know all of y'all don't agree with that, but I'm going to say it. And I want to see him have success. I hope that you all do. It's fun to kind of joke on them, but I hope you guys want, especially guys like Gene and Tommy when he was coaching, wanted to see them have success, not at the expense of Auburn, though. All right, 51 minutes in. Let's do it. I want final score predictions. We have talked about, post them right now. We have talked about what does San Jose State need to do to win. We've talked about storylines. We've talked about players to watch. We've talked about predictions. And kind of our general consensus is that expect Auburn to have a good running day. I really think that they're going to have one of those really good days right there. All right, so I'll go back up here. Rise Life had earlier said 45-17, which is what I predicted for Mercer. 56-3. 76-3. 55-0. Corey says this is a little bit more reasonable one. 48-13. 56-14. 55-10. Devin says, I don't regret losing Derek Mason. I hope Chiswick has success. I thought he was a decent coach and a guy. Oh, definitely a decent guy. But as we found out, sometimes decent guys aren't always the right fit for you. And I hate that, but that's sometimes the reality of the things that go on. All right, so it seems like nobody is predicting more than 14 to 17 points for these guys. I'm going to kind of agree with those of you that are giving them a little bit more credit, not because, again, of anything San Jose State is going to do against Auburn, but because of the competition that they will be scoring those against when we put in our backups, our freshmen, the guys that want to use some of their time without wrecking their eligibility. Hopefully this is when we're seeing Zach Calzada too and letting him work out whatever he's got going on. So I truly think that they're going to score about I'm going to say 13 points. I'm going to say they score 13 points, 2 field goals or a missed extra point, however I'll take it. But they'll definitely get at least 1 touchdown and some kind of mishap or something like that. With Auburn scoring 45 against Mercer, and a lot of that probably could have been more the way we were going because of the rain delay. So I think in a normal situation, Auburn probably scores 2 more touchdowns, which puts them close to 60 points. So I'm going to say I'm hoping that we get a few field goals. 49. I'm doing math in my head right now, so just bear with me for a second. I think that 55 number is probably what I like there, because that would give them at 49 would be 7 touchdowns. And then 2 field goals would be 55. So I'm going to say 55-13. Auburn beats San Jose State in their second game this season. Did I say 45? I'm sorry. That was my pick, and that's why I've kind of been stuck on for them for the Mercer game. But I think they're capable of scoring more in this one with a full, complete game. Hopefully we don't have any rain issues. Anybody check the forecast to see if it's going to be raining during? I know it's supposed to rain that day, but is it supposed to be raining during game time? Because last week it kept pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing. And finally it just said, you know what? 8 o'clock, rain's coming down. And I'm thankful it took till that long for the rain to really start. 45-17 low, high 53-10. We got ranges being dropped in here now. But 55-13 will be my new score. I can't remember what I predicted on my official prediction video, but there you have it. 55-13, Auburn wins there. We got a few more minutes on the stream here, so drop any more comments and questions that you have. Let me give you a couple of reminders overnight. Check out the links in the description for ways you can help check out or support some of the content that we have up here. You can be a channel member. So many of you that are in the chat right now or they're watching on the replay already are, and we appreciate that so much. $1 a month, hit that join button. There's also the thanks button if you want to do like a one-time thing here. Those are your options for specifically YouTube. If you'd like to take the step to help support us outside of YouTube, there's the Booster Club where you can get some perks for yourself. By the way, Booster Club members, I've got a blooper for you that'll be going in there very soon from a recent podcast. So no little perk. So they get access to bloopers from shows and stuff like that when we have them. Patreon.com/E2C Network. There's also PayPal, the TeePublic store. Those are the ways that you can help support our content. But the easiest thing you can do is just be here, smash the like button. You follow us and share our stuff out on social media. Just be a part of our little family within the Auburn family and help us grow that little family because you guys are the lifeblood of this. So we appreciate you guys so much for doing that. All right, let's see. Neil says scattered rain, 55%, not concerned, but I'm concerned, but I'm interested I'm interested to see if there is going to rain during the middle of it and us have like a broken up game again. Can you please do a Harvey Updike going to jail emoji? Well, Neil, but you'd have to be a channel member to have access to it, not to call you out, but would that get you in there? Would that get you in there? Are you a channel? No, you're not on there. Or a dustbuster emoji. I will put that on my list of things to do regardless of who joins or not and see if I can get that for them. 60% during the day, 40% at night. So it's gone down. Well, that's a better forecast than it was for the game last week. Cause you know, I will, if you do, consider it done, my friend. I vote for the dustbuster. You know, there are days, folks, when I wish the dustbuster moment hadn't happened, but because y'all have latched onto it so much and it's taken a life of its own, I'm happy. Because, you know, there's just some things that like, you're like, you know what? I wish I had never had that image put in my head. But here we are together bonding over it, which is kind of creepy and kind of weird. But that's what the Auburn family is all about. I don't know. All right, last minute comments and questions. Get them now. Obviously, San Jose State fans, we didn't hear from any of you, but not that I expected it to happen. But we have done our preview, talked about what to watch for, who we expect to do in certain predictions, score predictions, how San Jose could win. Reminders for you this week. I am not in Auburn, but we will have a post-game show. Stay tuned. There may be some other videos coming out that maybe I can do while I'm on the road, but definitely a post-game show Sunday night. We'll also on the road have our episode 3 of the Auburn Experience. So don't miss out on those things. You can watch that being taped live here and interact with us a little bit, or you can listen on the podcast. So those are some things to anticipate this week. That was an epic show. I don't know if epic is the word I would use, but it was interesting. But yeah, it was something else. All right, guys. Thank y'all so much for being here tonight. Thank you for being part of our little family within the Auburn family. I appreciate you all from the bottom of my heart, and the fact that you keep coming back, you keep supporting us just by being here. It means a lot. I'm excited for this weekend. I'm excited to talk with you guys after this game Saturday. And let's hopefully come out of this thing 2-0 and no more Georgia States, right? No more Georgia States. Let's get that win. My prediction officially, 55-13. Till I talk to you guys again.